There is a decision that thousands of older Americans make every year, believing it is the smart and loving thing to do, and it quietly hands their life savings to the wrong person, or freezes it out of reach of the very family they were trying to protect. It is not a scam. It is not a stranger. It is the name on a bank account. And the worst part is that the harm almost never shows up while you are alive to fix it. It shows up after, when it is far too late to undo. So let me walk you through the three quiet mistakes people make with a joint bank account, who each one hurts, and the single free step you can take at your own bank that undoes the most damaging one of all. None of this costs a dollar, and none of it is complicated once someone actually explains it to you. The trouble is that almost no one does. Let me start with the mistake that feels the most harmless, because it is usually done out of pure love. A parent gets older. Paying the bills becomes a little harder. So they walk into the bank and add one of their adult children as a joint owner on the account, just so that child can help write checks and keep things running. It feels responsible, it feels safe, and it opens a door that most people never see. Here is what actually happens the moment that second name goes on. That account is now legally exposed to that child's entire life. If your son runs up a credit card debt, if your daughter is sued, if either of them goes through a divorce or falls behind on a car loan or a medical bill, the money in that shared account can be treated as partly theirs, which means a creditor of your child can reach into the account and take money that you spent a lifetime saving. You did nothing wrong, and your savings can still be pulled into someone else's financial trouble. And there is a second layer to this one that catches families completely off guard. If you ever need long-term care and apply for Medicaid, the way that account is titled matters enormously. When a child is added to what is called an AND account, Medicaid can treat the entire balance as a gift to that child on the day the name was added. That gift can trigger a penalty period, a stretch of time where Medicaid simply will not help pay for your care at the exact moment you need it most. The very act meant to make your life easier can quietly disqualify you from the help you were counting on. There is even a detail in how the account is worded that most people never notice. An account joined by the word "and" can be treated very differently from one joined by the word "or." That one small word can change whether adding a child is counted as a gift and whether both people must sign to move money. It sounds like a technicality, yet families have lost real protection over which tiny word a bank happened to print on the paperwork. I want to be fair, because there is a right way to get help with your bills. There are safer ways to let someone assist you, such as a proper power of attorney or a different account arrangement that do not expose your money or trip the Medicaid rules. The point is not that you should never accept help. The point is that walking into the bank and adding a name is not the harmless little favor it appears to be. Now, let me get to the second mistake, and this is the one that tears families apart because it goes against everything you thought your will would do. Most people believe their will is the final word on who gets what. You wrote it carefully. You divided things evenly among your children. You feel settled. But a joint bank account does not listen to your will at all. Almost every joint account comes with something called the right of survivorship. In plain terms, it means that when one owner dies, the money in that account passes automatically and immediately to the surviving owner. It does not go through your will. It does not get divided the way your will says. It goes straight to whichever person shares the account, and it is theirs, completely. So, picture a parent with 3 children who adds only one of them to the account, again, just for convenience. That parent may have a will that splits everything 3 ways. It will not matter. On the day that parent passes, the money in that account belongs entirely to the one child whose name was on it. The other 2 can be left with nothing from that account, and there is often little anyone can do about it. Sometimes that child chooses to share it fairly. Very often, in the grief and confusion that follows a death, They do not, and it becomes the thing that turns siblings into strangers for the rest of their lives. A single name on a single account can override a whole lifetime of intentions, and the person who wrote those intentions is no longer here to explain what they truly wanted. That is why this mistake is so much bigger than it looks, and why the fix I am about to give you matters even more than you might think. So stay with this, because what is coming is the part that actually protects the people you love. Which brings us to the third mistake, and this one is the opposite problem. It is what happens when there is no joint owner and no plan at all. Say a person keeps their account entirely in their own name, no second owner, and no one named to receive it. It feels clean and private, and in a way, it is. But here is what happens on the day they die. That account freezes. No one can touch it. Not a spouse, not a child, no one, until the account passes through a court process called probate. Probate can take months. Sometimes it drags on far longer. It can involve court filings and legal fees, and all the while, the money just sits there, locked, while the family is trying to pay for a funeral and keep the lights on. The savings meant to protect them becomes unreachable at the precise moment they need it. A lifetime of careful saving, sealed behind a courtroom door. And it is often a surviving spouse who feels this the hardest. Two people who shared everything for 40 years, and yet as that account sat in one name alone, the one left behind can be locked out of it for months, made to wait on a court to release money that the whole marriage already treated as theirs. Now, here is the free step that quietly solves this, and it is the reason I asked you to keep listening. You can ask your bank to add what is called a payable on death designation. Some banks call it a beneficiary. It is a simple form, it costs nothing, and it does something powerful. It lets you name the person who should receive that account when you are gone. And when that day comes, the money passes straight to them, directly, without freezing, and without ever going through probate. You keep complete control while you are alive. The person you name has no access at all until you pass. You can change it whenever you like. And unlike adding a joint owner, a payable on death beneficiary does not expose your money to that person's debts or divorces while you are living. It is the control you want, without the door you do not. And there is one more quiet advantage that almost no one mentions. That same payable on death form can actually increase how much of your money is protected by federal deposit insurance. The FDIC, the agency that insures your bank deposits, covers up to $250,000 per owner at a bank. But when you name beneficiaries, your account is insured as a trust, and the coverage can rise to $250,000 for each person you name, up to a much higher ceiling. So the same free form that keeps your money out of probate can also keep more of it safe if your bank ever fails. Let me put that in plain numbers, because it is easier to feel that way. Imagine a person with $300,000 in a single bank, in an account with no beneficiary named. 50,000 of those dollars would be sitting beyond what federal insurance would cover if that bank ever failed. Now imagine that same person names 3 people to receive the account. The coverage can stretch to well past that balance, and every last dollar is protected. Same money, same bank, one free form, and a completely different outcome if the worst ever came. Let me tie this together, because once you see the pattern, all 3 mistakes are really the same mistake wearing 3 different faces. Every one of them comes from letting a bank account be decided by accident instead of on purpose. Adding a name for convenience feels like a small thing, but it can hand your money to a creditor or to one child instead of all of them. Leaving no plan at all falls private, but it can lock your savings behind a courtroom for months. And in every case, the harm lands after you are gone, on the people who can least afford it, at the worst possible time. The good news is that it is genuinely simple to get right. You do not need to be wealthy, and you do not need a lawyer to take the first step. So, Here is what I would gently encourage you to do this week. Call your bank or walk in and ask a few plain questions. Ask exactly how each of your accounts is titled and who would receive the money if something happened to you. Ask whether you have a payable on death beneficiary on file, and if you do not, ask to add one. And if you have already added one of your children as a joint owner, ask what your safer options are before you assume it is the only way. And then think of one person who needs to hear this. Someone who has quietly added a child to their account, or who has never named a beneficiary in their life, and has no idea what waits on the other side of that choice. Share this with them. Most families do not lose money here because anyone did anything wrong. They lose it because no one ever sat them down and explained how a simple bank account really works. One honest word before I go. I am not a lawyer, and I am not speaking about your particular family, because these rules do bend from one state to the next and one bank to the next, and the difference between an and account and or account and a beneficiary can change everything. So, use your own bank, and if your situation is at all complicated, a qualified elder law attorney to get the answer that fits your life. The reason I lay all of this out is not to worry you. It is so that the money you worked so hard for ends up exactly where you want it, with the people you love, and not lost to a rule that nobody ever bothered to explain.